Welcome, everyone. Today's guest, Dr. Alnoor Abdulla. He's a well-known cardiologist in Canada. He has won many awards. He is on the board for many different organizations as a board member and as a chair. Recently retired from medical field and now serving the community as a consultant. Dr. Abdullah, thank you so much. I want to welcome you, and I want to also say that I am so proud and happy to have you here because not only you have achieved success in your career financially, but even as a great community leader. All the work that you're doing in the community here in Canada, outside of Canada, we are so proud of it. And I'm so thankful to have you with me. You know, the reason I wanted to invite you today is because I want to help a lot of the young generation that's getting into very demanding careers such as yours, a cardiologist, a rheumatologist, a surgeon. And, you know, they go through the schooling, they go through the training, and suddenly they're put into this world that needs them to be a business person as well as a physician, even pharmacists for that matter. So, you know, someone like you, when you talk about your successes and you talk about your sacrifices and you talk about step by step how you did it, I think we're going to have lots of ears paying attention. I think we're going to have lots of youngsters thanking you for your good advice. So without any further ado, I'd like you to start by telling us first who you are. Who were you as a child? Who were you as a young doctor? And how did everything happen?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. And I feel privileged that you have taken the time to ask me things that have been in my mind for a number of years. You know, I grew up in a very small town in Tanzania, which is in East Africa. And I went to school there under the English system, and then I went to university for medical school in Uganda. Unfortunately, there was the revolution with Idi Amin and then the exodus, and I was partway through my medical school training, and I ended up in Canada as a refugee. So I started with essentially no funds, and that is not just a cliche. And I joined UBC Medical School halfway through the program. I was here alone. When I came here, I was just over 19 years old, and my family was not with me. So it was an extremely tough grind for me to put myself through medical school and then bring my family over subsequently, settle them, and then to do all my specialization training. And once I did that, I think there were many decisions I made along the way that were appropriate decisions, which turned out to be the right ones. And I made many mistakes. And every time I made a mistake, I learned from it. And what I may be able to tell you today is really what I have learned from a lot of my mistakes. But fortunately, things have worked out extremely well. I've had a great career in cardiology. I feel that I have accomplished the right things for my children and my family, and I have achieved financial freedom for myself with zero debt. And I think those are the factors that make me feel very good.
So can I ask you, Dr. Abdullah, what are some of those things? Let's focus on maybe 4 or 5 things that you could share with us today that you're very proud of, things and decisions that you made after making mistakes, of course, to stay on track and to survive. I mean, health-wise, money-wise, those are the 2 important things. You take care of health, I take care of money. So we're 2 very important people. But, you know, I would love to hear about those 4 or 5 things from you.
Yes. What I'm saying to you is not the way I was thinking when I started. And I feel I had someone, a mentor, who would have given me these thoughts, these important concepts, and would have guided me through. So what I'm telling you is what I wish I had someone tell me when I was starting out my career, finishing med school or finishing residency. I think the number one overarching theme that you have to understand, it may seem very obvious, is decisions. Decisions determine your
That
destiny.
you said, make decisions when you have to. I would say make decisions when you have to and when you're ready. And that's what's called research-based decisions, right? You don't just make a decision because everybody else is doing it. Everybody else is buying a house, so I'm going to buy a house. Everybody else is, starting a new diet, so I'm going to start the new diet. No. Have you noticed how I'm trying to speak more medical language?
You're getting very good, I must say. Maybe I will have to interview you about the medical issues.
Oh, I would love to give my not research-based opinions for sure. We talked about, Dr. Abdullah, we talked about a terminology that you used was life plan. And you said there are steps to life plans. And if you stick to those priorities, things become easier. And I was fascinated by that. Do you mind walking me through those 5 steps again?
Sure. So when I talk about the life plan, I'm talking about the 5 fundamental pillars that form the basis for your life ahead. So they are the foundational pillars of your life. Within that is incorporated the financial plan. So the financial plan is amorphous. It integrates into those 5 fundamental pillars which form the foundation of your life. So maybe I can tell you what I consider the 5 fundamental pillars.
Absolutely, please do.
I think the 5 fundamental pillars are equally important. They all have the same priority. They don't necessarily have to be done in sequence. They actually are done simultaneously based on your individual circumstances, because all 5 are important. And once you have those 5 in place, you have really set your course in life. So number 1 is your career, your job, or your business. It is the dominant factor that's going to determine your income for the rest of your life. It's going to determine all the time that you're going to be spending, the satisfaction that you're going to be getting, the stresses that you are going to be subjected to. And it forms the fundamental pillar of all other things that are to come in your life. So how you choose your career, which, as a physician, for example, which specialty do you decide to pick, or whether you're going to go into family practice, the location of where you're going to try and set up your practice. Generally, medium-sized communities that have other facilities available are more conducive to rapid success in your career than a large academic center where you may be restricted to doing only certain parts of all the training that you have learned. So, and then if you want to go into an academic career, or if you want to go into more a clinical career, think futuristic. Think what's coming in the future. Look at what is going to be in demand. What are the trends in healthcare? Think of not just your province or your country. For the generation that's coming up now, your playground is going to be the world. It is going to be a mobile professional activity, and you have to prepare yourself in that world. So,
very true. Very true. And I think what you mentioned just now, digital technology world, everything is bringing the whole world together so close that we can't really be restricted to one room. And, one of the family physicians that is a friend and also a colleague, he says, you know what, I never thought that most of my career would be spent in a closed, small room before I became a doctor. And when I did, that was one of the things that I did not like about my career. So what you're mentioning is so true and real. We don't think about that. Do we picture ourselves when we're going through the med school? Am I going to be in the room a lot, operation theater a lot, or in a university a lot? Where am I going to be? I think it's a very good tip so that people start thinking early on, where do I picture myself? And now everything coming together, you could just be on a video camera.
Exactly, exactly. So when you make those decisions and you've thought things through properly, and let's say you have entered a proper specialty or a proper job situation, what happens to some people? What happens to some people is they face challenges within that properly picked career. And the challenges are when you make mistakes within your chosen specialty with your peers. There is acrimony. You have to be very careful not to jeopardize your career in the way you work with others, the collegiality, the issues of ethics. You have to be careful to not jeopardize all that training and success you have achieved in a proper specialty. So it's an ongoing process of nurturing your career and building and continuing medical education and avoiding mistakes, challenges, competition, jealousy, all those issues.
So I think the first pillar, as you mentioned, Dr. Abdullah, is career. And your tip is give it some time, think about what you're going to be doing, where you see yourself fitted in that picture. Love it. Moving on to the second pillar.
The second pillar is what I term that your personal life and your family life. So it's about you and your family. And the first principle in there is a work-life balance. If I did not do things right in my life, I would say one of the major mistakes I made was I was not able to maintain a work-life balance. But I had my own circumstances. Survival was an issue for me. I was a refugee. I had to settle my family. I had to sacrifice my interests of sports and other things to continually work and get ahead. So everybody's circumstances are different. But if you're starting out young and you're setting your life, the course of your life, remember life-work balance is critical. Importance to your family, importance to your community, importance to your interests, whether they be sports or cultural, whatever. You have to not give those up just to make a successful career. I did that, and in many ways, I regret that.
But how do you make sure of that when you are in such a demanding career, you're on call day and night? How do you make sure that you bring work-life balance?
One of the things that helps you do that is to be in good rapport with your spouse, with your family, your children, and with your friends. So when you are in good rapport with them, you are integrated with them, they will be doing certain things and you would be participating with that. So they involve you into things that you would ordinarily not do on your own, and you would just go to work or read 100 more ECGs or something and get paid. So listen to your friends, harmonize with them, listen to your family, harmonize with the needs of your young kids, and do that, because that is important for your health. Your health is not just your physical health by good activity and good nutrition, but health is also your emotional health, your social health, your spiritual health. And that is all important to make you into a well-balanced human being with proper maturity as you go through life.
And sometimes, Dr. Alnoor, it's so simple. I'll tell you one example from my own life when I had a small daughter and I did have a very demanding career. I was on the go all the time on my phone or laptop, even at home all the time. And this physician friend of ours, he said, Seema, all your child needs is 20 minutes eyeball to eyeball. And it was that simple. And
Yes,
I never, I took that advice very seriously, and thank God I did, because as you mentioned, everybody makes their share of mistake, and I have made mine. But from that day onwards, it was 20 minutes, no matter what.
true. I want to add one more thing to your personal and family health, to your personal and family growth, to your personal and family dignity. And what I mean here is I talk about values. Remember and maintain your values, the values that come from your grandparents, from your culture, from your society, from your upbringing. That does not mean you do not integrate within other societies. Yes, you do integrate and you learn from them and pick up values from those societies as well. But you should not, in totality, just accept everything that are quote unquote values of some other society or what is accepted in another society. If it doesn't fit with your values, have the emotional strength and and do yourself a favor and maintain your dignity to stick to your values. And that will allow you personal growth and respect amongst your colleagues.
I think that sounds very much at home to me, because I was told never forget where you come from and don't try to be someone you're not.
Exactly.
Thank you for that reminder today. And I'm going to ask you to move to the third pillar.
Yes. The third pillar is what I call security. If you build the steps that are necessary to generate security for yourself and your family, you will have more freedom to do other things as life goes on. And in this category, I think primarily of insurances as a form of security. And so there is life insurance. And life insurance, I categorize them in four groups. There is the term policies, whether they are group or individual. There is permanent life or whole life policy. There is the universal life policy. And fourthly, there is the second to die joint universal life policies. And this area, I think I succeeded very well in my life. I've utilized all these policies at different times, understanding the purpose of each of these policies for that time, and then moving along and developing the other parts of the policies. So, what have I achieved? I have achieved the ability to spend all my money and pass away, and my children will have no problems and will have enough legacy to take care of the estate taxes and everything else and have lots left over for them. But I don't 100% trust my children. So I have to worry about my grandchildren. So I have set up policies in such a way where the benefits will jump a generation and go to my grandchildren. So if my children don't do their job right and leave behind a proper legacy for my grandchildren, I have at least set the stage for my grandchildren to start out in life with good financial footing. And
Amazing.
it comes with these four policies and understanding how to use them and how to utilize them the best way. The second insurance that I talk about is disability insurance. You must have that as soon as possible. Disability insurance is one of the most complex insurances that you will have to deal with. It has many complex. The purpose is straightforward. It replaces your income if you are disabled. So the purpose is simple and straightforward. But the setting up of that disability policy between your group policies or the government funded policies through the medical association or your medical plan or the private personal policy, and how to combine the two, how to make sure that you collect the right amount and who pays first in the two different policies, and that you don't unnecessarily pay too much premium, but you pay enough, and understand what happens in a partial disability situation, because disability, total or partial, is a very common thing that occurs to most people, and we don't think of it when we are young.
Well, you know what? I have a disclaimer. You sound like somebody who I would have. I'm sorry, Dr. Alnoor, all the things that you just mentioned, it sounds like you have done full research on the subject insurance and security for family. Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to give a disclaimer here. I did not prepare for you for that answer.
You did not, yes. And I want to add the third insurance, which is critical illness insurance. And that comes in at the right time. And it has its own principles of how you should decide on the critical illness policy, how much you should get. But the principles are based on understanding the definitions of what the insurance company is going to use when you have an illness. Will it classify that as a critical illness? So any type of cardiac illness is not going to be classified by the insurance company as a critical illness. So the homework you have to do when it comes to critical illness is understanding the definitions that insurance company is using for what it calls critical illness.
Absolutely. I think, the security and peace of mind insurance for sure plays a big role. And again, clients have to understand, does it fit in my budget? Is it right for me? Am I getting all the discount? And like your suggestion, do your research. Don't go for something that your friend or your family or Seema Sharma or somebody is recommending. Go with what's right for you after doing your research. I love that. And the fourth pillar.
The fourth pillar, I'm calling it, for simplistic terms, owning your own home as quickly as possible and paying off the mortgage as quickly as possible. Once you own your own home, it has multiple advantages. First, it gives psychological footing to your family and to your children who are going to come. And it gives you the security of building tax-free equity in your personal residence, your principal residence. And here is the location and the type of home you buy. You have to understand that the first home you buy is not the home which is your dream home that you're going to live in forever. Your career is going to change, your job's going to change, things are going to change, your family is going to grow, so many things are going to happen. And you will change your principal residence a few times during your life. The first one should be something that you can easily afford. It provides that need and security at that stage in life where you can pay off the mortgage fairly soon. You're not overstretched, you're not over leveraged. It's not in a location where it's going to be difficult to sell. So all the decisions about your first home have to be made with the thought process that you're going to be selling it. So don't customize it to such a level that you cut down the buyers that may like that kind of home. Don't renovate it to just the most weird tastes that you may have. Think of always the group of people that may be attracted to buy that home. Mm-hmm. And the more you customize it, the more you buy it in a difficult location, the less are the number of buyers. So the first home is important. And the principle here is that when you sell, you will have built up equity, you will buy a bigger home, you will build up bigger equity, and you will keep going that way until you get to the empty nest syndrome, where your children are grown up and moving away, or that you are now willing to retire and downsize. Then that's the time to draw in that all equity.
And I think that's a very good advice, because right now, when we deal with the young generation, owning your own home is not on their list a lot of times. You would find it very, it's amusing to me, because when I grew up, the first thing you wanted to do is, even success was defined if you own your home or not. But today, the young generation, because they're so mobile, they could work from anywhere, they love traveling. It's a complete different mindset. But I like the way you've mentioned it. You mentioned family and children and what's coming to you. Owning at least one property as your principal residence, even if you were to rent it, if you were traveling, it's fine, but at least that security is there for you. I love that. And these are, again, our suggestions. If the audience or the viewers want to go and do their own research, property values in different areas are crazy, but at the same time, this suggestion is really valuable. Thank you so much. And last but not least, we have the fifth pillar for today.
Yes. Again, I'm reminding you, all these 5 pillars are equally important. They don't have to be done in one sequence or the other. And so they are all important. The way I think of that, before I tell you the 5th pillar, is I think of it that here's your hand, and it becomes extremely powerful when it becomes a fist.
True.
Fist is the power. That's what you want. You want the 5 pillars of your life to become powerful,
Together,
to lead you through life confidently. Now, try to make a fist with one finger missing. There is strength gone.
yes.
You see that? The strength in the fist is gone. It's there only if all 5 fingers are in there. Okay. Now, so what's the 5th pillar? I call it, for simplicity, savings and debt. All right. So it's a spectrum. On one end is the ideal, which is where you are doing savings. And the other end is the worst, where you are picking up too much debt. Now, I'm not saying that you never have debt. I mean, obviously, a mortgage is a debt. If you lease your vehicle, then that's a debt, right? But having credit card debt is a disaster. You should never, ever in your life pay 19% interest to someone because you didn't pay the bill, invoice, that month. So there are good debts and bad debts, but savings is critical. Now, how do I categorize savings and debt? For savings, I group it into 2 categories. One are your registered plan savings, and the other are your non-registered plan savings. And it is from these that you will make your real estate investments and you will make your financial investments. I'm talking about revenue properties, or renting, or buying in shares, or investing in stock. It will come from this basket. All right. But the principle is to first put into place the 3 most important registered plans as soon as they're needed: the RRSP, the TFSA, and the RESP as soon as you have children. And the sooner you do these and put the foundation in place, the boxes in place, then you can keep building on it and it will provide benefit. And you have to understand the principle of the RRSP and the principle of the TFSA and the principle of the RESP. They all have different pros and cons. And some people say, well, first you have to put your money in RRSP, and that's good, and wait for the TFSA, or if you don't have enough savings. No, I can tell you there are many situations for a young person starting out and trying to save, that in that year or something, putting the money into a TFSA may be better than putting the money in an RRSP, because your tax bracket may be fairly low at that time, and the tax benefit you're getting is very little. And when you withdraw the money later on, and if you have followed the plan perfectly, you will have financial freedom by the time you retire. You will have considerable income. You're not likely to be in a very low tax bracket. So you will take the money out at a relatively high tax bracket when you put it in at a very low tax bracket. But if you had put it into a TFSA, you would be withdrawing that money tax free. So it's what I call a dynamic process. Some year you will put more into an RRSP, less into TFSA, and vice versa, but you want to try and maximize those. And then when it comes to RESP, you want to make sure you make maximum benefit of the government grant that comes with it, so that the government is participating in developing the savings for your children's education.
Absolutely wonderful. My mind is actually, if there was an honorary certificate that I could give you in financial planning, I would have presented that to you today.
You're very kind.
I have another friend of mine, he is a nephrologist by profession, and he came to one of our interviews, and one of the first things he said to me was, Seema, no matter how much you talk about wealth, there is no bigger, better wealth than your health.
Yes.
And I thought about it quite a bit, and I said, you know what, where I come from, doctors are placed next to God, because you guys have the control, the authority, the background, the knowledge to make a person feel better, heal that person, make them feel better, bring them back from, if they were leaving this world, bring them back. I've seen you do that even to close family and friends and family members. So I want to thank you for that, for the contribution that you have given to this society, to Canadians and outside world. And also say a big thank you to have been able to obtain so much knowledge in the financial world. And you did that simultaneously while you're working and taking care of your 5 pillars. I know you're very happily retired right now. I know you will never depend financially on anybody in this lifetime. You would leave a great legacy for your family. Having known, the details that I do know about you, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on this channel today, because every day I deal with young professionals that are concerned about paying off their student loans or buying their first home, or which savings should I start first. They are concerned, and I see them. And poor people, they start 10 years late, later than everybody else. So they're more concerned, right? They start their families a little bit late too. So I thought, what's better than bringing someone who's done it all, who knows it all, to this interview today. I want to thank you for your time. And I would love to have you back again soon with more questions. And feel free to drop by anytime as well, from your own self, from your side.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. And if I can contribute further, I'll be most happy to do so.
Thank you, Dr. Abdulla. Thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome.